Hey there, it's Mackenzie, your host of Winning. We're looking for sponsors for the podcast. If you have a business that you would like to promote to thousands of people, send us an email at podcastwinning@gmail.com or send us a message on social media. I cannot wait to hear from you. Now on to the show.
Winning is your guide to making it in business. Join our award-winning host and entrepreneur, Mackenzie Kilshaw, and special guests in casual conversations that will educate and inspire you on your business journey. Winning will help you learn the hard lessons the easy way with guidance from celebrated entrepreneurs and business leaders. It's fun. It's informative. It's winning.
Hello, I am Mackenzie Kilshaw, your host of Winning. And today's guest is Luke Rossmo. Hi, Luke.
I'm good, Mackenzie. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you for being on. Luke is, I always ask people to send me their bio. And I love getting bios because they're not just like, I was born and raised here. Luke's bio starts off with, today I live the life I want. And that makes me happy. We're going to talk a lot today about mindset. But just to give you a little bit of background on Luke, he coaches people, he writes, records, and plays music, and he's got a son and a beautiful relationship. I think there's some fitness stuff maybe that's happened too. So we're going to talk about that, but his business does not run him, and he has the time and space to do things that are important to him, which is amazing because when you're an entrepreneur and a small business owner, I think that a lot of time is a pull, right? You don't have the time to do things you want to, and you should. That's part of life, right? So welcome, Luke.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit more about yourself. Give us the lowdown about you and what you do.
That's a big one. I mean, what I do. It's interesting. Like just hearing that back at me. I think a lot of entrepreneurs fall in the trap of trying to grow their baby, their business baby.
Yep.
And they forget about themselves. They lose themselves in that process. So when I work with people, I actually do work with a lot of entrepreneurs, but one of the mindsets that we work to adopt is to put ourselves first in every way that you can imagine. So that's what I do with my schedule. Like you said, I write music, I record. That makes me happy. It's a creative outlet. If you looked at my calendar, you'd see you mentioned training. That's part of me taking care of me. It's literally scheduled in my day from noon till 1:30. That's part of my work.
Love it.
Yeah, so like my whole day is structured around taking care of me. And then when I'm at my best, I just kind of like crush things in my business and it just grows really well. And I guess the other thing that I want to say is that it wasn't always this way. Like I lived on the struggle bus in every which way that you could possibly imagine. So it's been a journey, let me tell you.
You know what? I love hearing the honesty of that. And I think I can totally relate. I started a business 10 years ago. I became an entrepreneur, started a business and had the mindset really that I had to work 12 hours a day and every single day and not take a vacation and not do certain things because I had to work on my business. And now I realize that actually was the complete wrong thing to do. Time for myself. And I did spend lots of time still with family and friends, but I was tired when I was with them because I worked for 12 hours, right? And I think we have that ideal that I have to hustle to make sure that my business succeeds. But when you're not at your best, how can your business be at your best?
It can't. That's the equation right there. But it's a trap.
It's a trap.
And you also referenced hustle. We literally have hustle culture. That is a thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, I also like to just put this out there, like we don't exist in a vacuum. So we're culturally influenced and hustle culture and also like the cost of living is going up. So people with like regular jobs these days, there's a need now where, okay, you can't just have a job. You actually do need like a side thing just to float. Yeah. So there's a lot of sort of societal pressures, and I think it's worth mentioning too.
Yeah, it's true. And it's like, if you're not posting all the amazing things you did on your Instagram account, they don't matter, which is absolutely silly, right?
It is.
Because it is. And that's the world we're in. And listen, I love Instagram as a business tool as well. It is amazing. I owned women's clothing stores. I physically sold items from Instagram. I'm not bashing it in that way,
Yeah.
but we totally are in that era of you need to work so hard and don't, exercise and all sleep, whatever. You can sleep 10 years from now. And that's not true.
No, no. And the better that I am, the more efficient I am, and therefore the more productive I am. So I honestly just spend, maybe three or, if I'm being honest, like 3 or 4 hours a day on my business, on one of my businesses. It's it's not all consuming. It's just a part of my life. Like I have all these beautiful. I use a lot of like tree analogies because I'm just obsessed with trees. But I have like all of these different branches that are sprouting from like the trunk that is me. And so the more that I nurture that trunk, like everything just works better.
Yep. Oh yeah,
Everything.
it's true. And
Yep.
oftentimes we'll talk to about things you don't like doing. You don't like I did not like doing my payroll and bookkeeping and stuff like that because I found it just absolutely draining. So I passed that off to someone else and I paid someone else to do it. And then I spent the time doing the things I liked, being with my clients, networking, the things I liked and the things I was good at. And wow, does that ever make a difference?
That's brilliant. I mean, the more that you can fill your plate with things that you love doing, the more it's like it perpetually keeps you full. And that's another trap. And I think like, especially for like newer entrepreneurs is like, we think that we have to do everything. But it's like, no, like you can give away everything that you don't love. And
Yeah,
that's your ultimate path forward. But there's a lot
exactly.
of trust in that. Yeah. That's a completely different mindset to adopt. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Because sometimes you think, well, by the time I teach someone how to do this on my team or show them how to do it, I could have just done it. Right. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
The first time.
The first time. That's right. The first time. But then what about every other time? Right. And guess what? Oh, I'm not good at everything. Like, why am I trying to do? Yeah, I know, shocker. I know it's shocking. But I mean, why am I trying to do work that is not anything that I'm educated in, skilled in? Why not have someone that knows what they're doing do it? It's kind of silly
So,
when you talk about it like that.
well, I love I use another analogy for this, and this hit me so hard. So like when we're an entrepreneur, we think that we need to do everything, and it's like it doesn't make sense to start to hand that off. And part of it is like the money idea.
Yep.
But
Yep.
um, I'm a musician, and part of what I do is create music, and I play guitar and I sing. So if I'm going to record a song with a full band, like I'm not going to learn how to play the drums. I'm not going to learn how to play the bass. I'm actually just going to hire people to do that.
Yeah.
Because it just makes so much more sense.
It sounds so
But we could,
silly when you make an analogy like that, doesn't it?
yeah, yeah. Because it would take me like probably 10 years to learn the drums the way that the guy that played the drums,
Yeah,
I'm not going to invest that time. Like, that's crazy. I'll just hire that out. And it's going
exactly.
to be better anyway.
And think of that, instead of thinking of that as an expense, think of that as an investment into your music, right? So instead of seeing, oh, that just cost me too much money, I can't spend that money there. Well, if you think of it as ROI, right? What's your return on that going to be? Because if you spend months and months and months learning something and you're still not that good at it, or you could have just paid somebody else to do it and spent that time doing something else, is that not a better return on your investment?
Yeah, we get into the trap of like looking at money as like the return on the investment, but at a certain point in especially business ownership, you're not you're looking at the equation the wrong way. You're actually investing to buy back your time. Your time is the most important thing, and then your energy is actually your second most important thing. So everything that we start to do as we ascend through like our entrepreneurial journey, it becomes about reinvesting our assets, which become money, back into our time, and hopefully you're investing that time into your energy.
Yeah.
Because that's what runs your business. You do. So you got to be at your best. That's important.
100%. You're preaching to the choir here, because that is something I tell people all the time. And when somebody says to me, I just don't have time, I don't have time for exercise, or I don't have time, oh God, I can never go to the spa, I don't have time. I'm like, put in your schedule, like make the time. It's there for you, but you have to do that instead of doing something else, right?
Yes.
But by doing, I'm the same as you. I schedule every morning an hour exercise, and I do it. Yeah. I do not skip it, because I need that for my mental and physical health. And that's my time. I'm unavailable. If somebody wants to have a meeting with me, then sorry, I'm not available. Because then I know I'm going to do it. It's in my schedule. I'm doing it.
You're locked in. You're good to go.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just thinking, probably as a young boy, you weren't dreaming of being a mindset coach. That's just a guess. So how did you get here? I mean, I think that a lot of people listening to this might even say, what exactly is mindset? How do you coach that? But how did you even get here? A huge thank you to our sponsor, Just For You Day Spa and Wellness. Just For You is Canada's premier day spa, with 5 locations in Alberta and Saskatchewan. The award-winning luxury spa features Leah Reese cosmetics and iconic Betty jewelry that you can also purchase online. Visit www.justforyoudaySpa.com to book your service or to purchase a gift card.
Those are there's two different things there. So the way that most people define mindset is like a set of attitudes, beliefs, perceptions, whatever, the way you think. And it's that, but it's more than that, because that's just sort of addressing the mind, which the mind is a thinking thing. But we're more than that. We're thinking, feeling, physical beings. So for me, mindset is cultivating everything from body, mind to feelings that put you in a space where you can be your best. And the way that I actually start doing that with people is to recognize all of the reasons that they're not that already. So we're not talking about like positive affirmation. Can I swear or not swear?
Oh yeah. Yep. Go ahead.
Okay.
Right ahead.
So I'm not talking like, just like positive affirmation bullshitty stuff. It actually doesn't work. Like scientifically completely wrong.
Yep.
We have to, I use this analogy. You are this beautiful boat. I'm this beautiful boat. We're unique boats. And we're also beautifully suited for our unique destination. That's our goals, our dreams, the lives that we want to live. We have everything we need, but most people spend a lot of time and money and energy trying to improve their boat in some way. More education, more X, more Z, more better sales, different crew, different captain. And we go through years of trying to improve our boat. When most of us, all we have to do is look off the back of our boat and see like, oh my goodness, I had these anchors here the whole time.
Yes. Yes.
So instead of like trying to be different, accept where we are. And for us, that typically means looking at our anchors. So how did I get here? Mackenzie, I had all of the anchors that you could imagine.
Sorry, I laugh at that because I feel like so do I. Like, continue.
There's also like, there's a lot of nuance and layers to this. So, I referenced earlier, like we don't know what we don't know. So I come from an incredibly anxious family. And there was a time where I was like, oh man, I'm so happy I didn't get that one. Not knowing that I was actually incredibly anxious 24/7. So the things that I've learned about myself, I was basically chronically anxious, depressed. I had a binge eating disorder, basically, struggled with weight, food, self-esteem, self-worth, overthinking, overanalyzing, lived in fear, lived in doubt.
I
So
feel
these are
like
all
I feel like you're talking about every entrepreneur that I talk to. In all, I mean, to some
yeah,
extent, right? To some extent, because I feel like
yeah,
those negative, self-limiting thoughts happen. Even if you're in a good spot, it's like imposter syndrome, or things are really good now, but they're not going to be, something bad's going to happen, you know?
yeah.
And I
Um,
feel like that happens to a lot of people that are on this journey.
yeah, I do. I think so as well. I think that some of these things are far easier to address and deal with than others. Um, so my personal journey, just I lived on the struggle bus. So if I go back to me being at 28 years old, I'm 36 now. I was dead broke, no opportunities, in a terrible relationship, at a terrible job with abusive owners, and I lived a very small, very, very unhappy life. And um, my journey to this point is navigating the process that got me to where I am, where um, I don't experience imposter syndrome. I actually don't really experience doubt anymore. Um, but I've done a ton of work to get to this point. So I think that that's possible, and I'm still human. I still have
Feel?
I still feel I
Yeah.
actually feel very, very deeply, but it all passes very quickly, and there's no obsession or um, it doesn't actually affect me that much, and it certainly doesn't affect how what I need to do on a daily basis. But that's been the journey to get here, is basically the journey through my struggle, and I think that's how most of us end up where we end up, is doing what we do.
Yeah, for sure. Learning, growing. Did you have like a light bulb moment or a turning point where you were like, this, I'm not enjoying life. I'm not where I want to be. I need to make some changes, or I need to get out of this? Did you have a time, or was it just a buildup of so much?
It was both. It was buildup of so much, and then light bulb moments along the way. Um, I actually had to get to the point where I believed that I could change, because I thought that I was doomed. I thought that there was something inherently wrong with me, that I was actually deficient in some way. Um, so the first big light bulb moment I had was 28 years old, and look, business is one thing, but the thing that I want to do most in the world, and that I wanted to do most at that time, was actually just play my guitar on a stage in front of people.
Mhm.
And I thought, like, that's something I could never do, and that was a belief that I carried with me my whole life. And here I am at 28, and um, the first revelation that I had was, long story short, I end up on stage and I didn't die. Um,
So usually what
shocking.
happens is when you're scared of something and you do it, you usually don't die.
I didn't
Yeah.
die. But coming out the other side of that was, okay, I faced this incredibly deep fear, came out the other side, and that led to facing all of the fears and actually changing my relationship to fear, where fear is not something to shy away from, it's something to like run towards. So I told you that we moved a couple of years ago. I was terrified to move, so I had to do it.
Yeah.
I was terrified to have a son, had to have a baby. Terrified to start a business, had to start a business. So fear is, okay, that's a comfort zone. I'm going to go shatter that, because that's where growth is. So
100%.
yeah, recontextualizing, changing my relationship to the notion of fear was incredibly empowering. Um, the the most recent light bulb I had was like 3 months ago. I was running a half marathon one morning. I couldn't sleep, and it was just something in the back of my head I wanted to do. So I'm out there running, and kilometer 7 hits. Okay, and I noticed this little voice in my head. Same voice, by the way, telling me like, "Dude, you could never play on stage. You could
Yeah.
never do
You
that.
drop dead. Yep.
You will die."
You'll die.
We're being kind of like tongue in cheek about it, but that's actually what the fear is. It's like, if you do this, you might die. That's how we feel in our body. It's the fear of death. It's the fear of being killed and mauled by a tiger. Um,
Yes.
and
Embarrassment, right? Fear of embarrassment, fear that you'll that you won't look good or people won't like it, right? There's lots of things, but same reason people don't want to speak on stage or they don't want to do something that's out of their normal activity.
Yeah,
And
that's what we're consciously aware of. But for me, like fear always distills down to it's primal. Fear's there to keep us safe, and not
right.
keep us safe from public speaking. Keep us safe from a tiger attack. Like literally,
Yes, death.
it's primal fear. It's the fear of death. Like that is the fear. That's why it keeps us small. Like it is terrifying.
I love that,
It
how
is,
you
it
say
is
keeps you
life-threatening.
small. Yes, I love how you,
That's what it's there for.
I love that. I love how you say keeps us small, because every person that says to me, how did you make the leap and start your business? And I'm thinking you'll feel the same way, but if I started it and it didn't work out and it failed, then I'm just back to having a job like I have right now. So at least I tried.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Or it doesn't work and you move on to like the next business that works.
Exactly.
So like another thing is like this notion of failure. I don't want to come back to my story too, but this notion of failure, like we don't fail at anything. We just have learning experiences.
Yes. Love
Like,
that.
and like having options. So if we move across the country and it's not working for us, that's not that it didn't work out. It's that we went and we had this beautiful experience and now we can move back if we want to. Like nothing's set in stone the way people think it is. Um, I want to circle back because I think this is really fun. I'm out running, right? So half marathon. I've never run one before, and it's kilometer 7. And that voice in my head pops up, and it's like, man, you gotta stop. You're getting tired. No one would know. No one would know if you stop. So this
You could
voice
walk.
is just walk. You well, actually, just go home. Like, what are you doing? You're crazy.
Just
You're literally
completely.
insane.
Yep.
Yeah. Uh, and the voice is trying to get me to stop, but I didn't. I kept going, and I find myself on like kilometer 15. And I'm actually feeling good, which is fun. And I just fell into this imagination land of playing on stage with my favorite band in the world, which is the Dave Matthews Band. So here I am on stage in my mind with the Dave Matthews Band, and that voice within like 2 steps, bum bum. Um, it popped back into my head. And it was like, dude, you could never do that. They would never let you up there. You could never do that. And in that moment, I had what felt like a profound realization. I realized that that's the same voice telling me like that I should stop running. It's the same voice that told me not to have a baby, move across the country, get married, have a family, da 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 da. It's the same voice that told me years ago, dude, you can never get on stage, period. And so the recognition that I had in that moment was that limiting beliefs only seem to differ in magnitude. There's no difference. They
Yeah,
exist right
exactly.
here. Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing limiting you is you. Right?
Yes. But when we really get that, if we allow it to, it's all just play. There's no restrictions anymore. You can show up and do anything.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree.
and that's fun. And there's a
I totally
feeling with
agree.
that. It's the feeling of possibility. It's the feeling of joy and growth, and connection. Actually, connection.
Yep. And truly anything is possible. You know,
Yes.
we say to ourselves, that's impossible. Or someone else will say to you, that's not possible. You can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But why can't you? Right? I mean, there's so many, there's education, there's research, there's learning, there's so many ways that you can get from point A to point B. And when you tell yourself or someone else tells you you can't, that's really what's stopping you.
Yes.
Right?
Full stop. Yeah.
Full stop.
And if it's someone else, well, that's not your limitation. That's their limitation.
Yeah. I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember before I opened my business, a family member said to me, why on earth would you do that? Like, you are getting a paycheck right now, you get vacation time, you get like, why on earth would you, like, it's just so negative. Like, why would you put yourself through all of that for what? I was like, because it's my passion and I love it. And I want to do something for work that I love doing. And it was just like, ugh, like, couldn't believe that I would want to do something that I enjoyed doing. And for 1 second, I think I was like, oh God, should I be doing this? And then I was kind of like, that's stupid that she said that to me, and I got over that quick. But I think if you hear that a lot and your own mind is telling you that, your own self is telling you that, it's a hard stop. And I think a lot of people don't take that step because they're afraid.
Yes, 100%. And that's human too. That's part of our experience. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you here, how does mindset affect your business? I think we were literally just talking about that, right? Because maybe you don't even start. Or maybe you don't change something in your business because you're afraid.
Yeah, I mean, those are two ways that it can show up. Look, if you have a business, who's running the business? You are.
You are.
So the way that you think about the world, the way that you think about business, the way that you think about money, the way you think about customers, the way you think about marketing, the way you think about sales. But the most important thing here is actually the way that you think about yourself. Those are inseparable from how you're going to show up in your business. They're inseparable. It lays the path. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think too, I like how you kind of laid out there the way you think about customers and the way you think about money and the way you think about marketing. It's so true. And I know a lot of questions come about finances and money because a lot of people have really a poor mindset around money. I'll always be broke. I'll never have enough money to do the things I want to do. And when that's how you think, that's what happens, right?
Yeah, your actions will fall in line to whatever narrative you carry about yourself in the world. Like, it's just a scientific law of our neurology. So that's all true. I didn't mention my money stuff. That was another one of the symptoms that I had of being stuck. And the thing that I became conscious of were, okay, well, making money's hard, so on and so forth, but incredible anxiety around money. Like, I couldn't pay when a bill came for dinner. Like, I would struggle to look at it, and I would order off the menu I'd order the cheapest thing. I avoided my taxes for 2 years. Like, the idea of doing it was overwhelming. It was terrifying. So those are what we're consciously aware of. But usually money stuff has nothing to do with money. Like, usually it's a symptom, and we have to do the work of recognizing like what's below that surface. And usually it's a sense of safety or okayness or enoughness. Like, I need money to be okay. I need money to feel safe. And those are the things that we really have to learn how to look at and analyze and consider for ourselves. Those are behind the money stuff often.
Yeah, for sure. That makes total sense. And usually, if you think about things, most things are symptoms of the main cause, right? Yeah. So lots of times will use the story of a difficult customer, the customer that would come into my store and, be really upset and yell at my staff over, returning a pair of jeans. It has nothing to do with jeans. They're mad at something else. Something else has them, something going on in their life, and they take it out on that person because they're standing there, right? So same goes to your beliefs about money or your beliefs. I want to talk about leadership, like how mindset affects you as a leader, because when you're a business owner, leadership of your business and your team really is the will you be successful or not? And I can imagine if you are not in the proper mindset, how that affects you as a leader.
Once again, you can't separate the two because at the heart of leadership again is you. Um,
Yeah.
the the first thing I think is first of all, our the people around us, our kids and so forth, they don't really they might listen to what we say, but they don't care. They listen and learn from what we're doing. So the first thing is like, okay, are you leading yourself? Huh. Are you leading by example? I think the second thing in leadership is actually just now this isn't my specialty, but I'm pretty good with people. And I think that the probably the number one quality of a leader is being deeply empathetic and caring.
Yes. Put yourself in their shoes.
Yes, and listen to them because they have value and they have worth and they need to feel seen and people need to feel heard. And that all goes in with creating a sense of safety for people. And when people feel safe, they will show up for you and they'll show up for themselves. They'll kill it for you and they'll kill it for your business. And they'll want to be around you. And
Yeah.
I think that that's effective leadership.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when I had staff, I always said, I'll never ask you to do anything that I wouldn't do.
Hmm.
Right? It's like, I did this at one time, or I'm going to do this so that you know that, right? We're on the same path. We're on the same, right? You want the business to be successful. You
Hmm.
want the happier your staff is, the better off you are. And
Yes.
your staff can't be happy if you're miserable. It's not going to work out.
No, everything rings out from you and who you are, which is again why doing the things that's so important to put you first and um, prioritize your mental emotional health and everything that means for you. Like for me, that means certain things like playing music, but it's individual. So you have to find your thing and take care of you first. But that's a cultural thing. So if your staff see you doing that, that's you being a leader and taking care of you. Like you also have to encourage that for others, which means people need to feel safe enough to be able to express themselves and share their ideas and share their feelings and emotions. And so again, it just starts with us leading us and being there for us.
Yeah, for sure. And inclusion, right? Including them. Like,
Hmm.
hey, Luke, what do you think we should do here? Hey, who's got ideas about how we can market this or sell this or what new services should we offer, right? It's talking to your staff and including them. And that builds loyalty, that builds
Hmm.
trust, that builds, you feel good when somebody asks your opinion, right?
Yes.
Your boss says to you, hey, like, what do you think we should do about this? How do you think we should handle this? That makes you feel good.
Yeah, I mean, it empowers people, and you communicate a sense of I trust you and I value you.
Yes.
Um, and when we're talking about like what do we need more than anything, um, it's a sense of connection. So the corporate, maybe not even corporate, the small businesses, even the corporations of like the future, they will put. It's going to be okay. Well, you first, you the individual. What do you need for you, and what do we need for the culture so that you feel cared for, you feel like you're heard and understood, and all of those things that you just said go into that. They go into creating that.
Yeah. And I think too, one good thing I think that came out of the COVID pandemic was, people worked from home. And I know for some people it was really, really hard.
Hmm.
But now I know a lot of businesses are, they're flex. Like you can come to the office, you can work some from home. Some people are completely remote now. They don't even go to an office. But I think things like that really were, what's best for you, Luke? Like
Yeah.
what do you want to do? Do you want to come to the office? Do you want to stay at home? Do you want to do a hybrid? What is best for you? And giving people options like that literally make their life better, make them happier. It all comes full circle, right?
Yeah. But what you just said at the end is beautiful. Like, um, what's best for you? What makes you happier instead of what makes us more money? I think that changing the conversation to what makes you happier is going to be the path forward. And ironically, that's also the path to keeping people longer, um, having better work culture, and ultimately also making more money.
Exactly. Yeah, it is because just as yourself, as the leader, the entrepreneur, the business owner, the better you are, the more productive you are at work. Same as your staff, right?
Of course.
So they are going to try harder, sell more, whatever they're, whatever it is, just by default, it's going to happen.
Of course.
Yeah. 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 I mean, COVID was a really hard time, but I think a lot of people realize that, when people are happier, it's not just about the business, it's about the humans. And that's essential.
Yeah. I mean, I agree.
Yeah.
It's
If you're
just
listening and you don't agree with us, you better message us afterwards, and we're going to have sit down with you.
well, I'll tell you what, it's okay to be wrong.
Yeah.
No, there's room for that too. So,
Oh,
but no,
exactly.
I totally agree. Like, it's not, it's just, it has to be, and this isn't the way it is, but I think it's the way that we're moving towards is, it's got to be people first.
Yeah. And that's what makes you successful, right? Because if you're in that positive space, things are going to work out. And even if they don't, and something doesn't work, you try something and it doesn't work. When you're in a positive space, you could say, okay, that didn't work. Why didn't that work? What can we learn from this? Let's move along. Right. And you try something different, or you take that lesson and, we didn't research enough, or whatever the reasoning is, but you move along. And I think if you're in a negative space, it's really easy to sit in that quote unquote failure space. We failed. Oh, boo-hoo kind of thing. I hate to say that, but, and it's a lot harder to get out of that then.
Yeah, well, it can be almost impossible. And further, like a lot of people will internalize the narrative of this failed to I'm a failure.
Yes.
And now we're actually in a lot of trouble because if we have that well, that's an identity level statement, and those are the most powerful forms of belief. It's self-belief. Those are the ones that are hardest to look at and that require the most attention, the most care, and the most love to begin to change. And unless and until you change that, nothing will change. It doesn't matter what you try to do. You will always default back to the deepest held narrative that you carry for yourself. So that happens all the time in business. I come from, my former life was like weight loss and fitness, and the amount of people that have failed on diets because dieting doesn't work, like full stop, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
But people don't blame the system which is faulty. They internalize the failure and they say, well, I'm a failure, and now anything and everything that we try moving forward is doomed to fail because I'm a failure.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And I think too, what I've found from personal experience is the people you surround yourself with that really have an impact on that thought. Because if you are surrounded by people that are, well, you're not a failure, that just didn't work, try something different. Let's look at what you learned from that. If you're around positive people, then you're going to see the positive. If you're around negative people, you're going to see the negative, and you're probably going to sit in it for a while, right? And whether that's your team, whether that's your friends, whether that's your spouse, whoever it happens to be, if you're in a negative space, you're in a negative space. And if you're in a positive space, you're typically in a positive space, right?
Yeah. We like to think that we exist in vacuums, but we don't. We're designed to connect and connect deeply with people, and that's how our social circle forms. So you probably know that old Jim Rohn quote that's like, "You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with," and other ideas like, if you have 19 broke friends, like you're going to be the 20th, like that idea.
Yeah.
And the reason is, uh, the the things that we learn, they obviously come from other people. So it's very important to guard your social circles. Like, it's your responsibility to set up your environment for success, and part of that is your social community.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because your
whether
social
that's your
community, yeah.
whether that's your staff or whether that's your support system, your network,
Well, and it's
right?
all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so if somebody's listening to this right now and they are feeling in that stuck spot and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's me. I dwell on the negative, or I'm that person that I'm the failure. It wasn't the circumstances, it was me."
Yeah.
How do they get unstuck? How do they get out of that space?
It's going to be really counterintuitive, and it's more. It's going to sound simple, and it is on one hand, but it takes some work. So the first thing is you have to adopt an attitude of incredible love and compassion towards yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have to lead with love, compassion, and curiosity, and you don't try to become unstuck. You don't try to become positive. You you really look at yourself, and you have to really deeply, deeply, deeply consider um, your thoughts and feelings and where they're coming from. And that takes practice and it takes work. But when you see um, the way that you actually think about yourself in the world, and you investigate it with curiosity and compassion, and then ultimately just determine, um, is this serving me or not? And we're going to start to see, like, if it doesn't feel good, then it's not serving us. We
Yeah.
can start to let those things go. But it starts with these two things: curiosity and compassion, and meeting yourself where you actually are. So, what is my experience of myself in the world? And truly seeking to understand that and the depth of that. That's the first step.
Yeah. And that's great because I think a lot of us just go through life and you push things like that off, right? It'll
Yeah.
you have to deal with it. You have to
No,
deal with got you there.
you don't have to, but your life will continue to play out the same way
Same way.
unless and
Yep.
until you do. Um,
Yeah.
and it's really important to recognize, like, we set up our lives in a way to not look at those things because they are painful. So for me, it was easier to go to food and binge on ice cream than it was to feel my feelings, because my feelings weren't comfortable; they were horrible.
Yeah.
Um,
But that
but
didn't
I
get you
had
anywhere.
Well,
Right?
it got me elbow deep into ice cream, twice a week. So
Yeah, yeah.
um,
But it didn't
that's
improve your situation at all. So
no,
until
but
you
it
until you dealt with why you had to go to the ice cream,
yes,
you're right. Then you're never
you're
gonna
stuck.
change. You're stuck.
You're
Yeah.
stuck.
But you can be
Yes,
unstuck.
yes, you can. You
You
totally
can.
can. I am proof of that. So
Well,
if I
you
can
live
do
it.
it, anybody can.
That's the thing. I mean, you live it and now this is your life. I mean, you're helping people get out of those ruts, being
Yeah.
stuck, whatever you want to call it. And I know lots of people are going to want to look you up. So at the end, we're going to tell them where they can find you because if you're feeling this, and we've all been there, um, you know, if you're feeling this, you don't have to live in this forever.
No, no, you
You
don't.
can get out. You can get out.
Yes, you can.
Is there anything that, um, like a important lesson or something that kind of anyone can do right now to have that positive mindset?
Uh, so the framing on this idea of a positive mindset is backwards. So we think that we need to cultivate a positive mindset, and on one hand, that's true, but that's step two. So the thing to actually do is kind of what I said earlier, which is seek to understand the reason that you don't already carry a positive mindset. Seek to understand the reason that you feel stuck. Seek to understand the reason that you're not doing XYZ, which will result in your hopes and dreams. Um, it's not that you're missing anything. That's the key takeaway. That you are a beautiful whole person. You're not missing anything. There's nothing missing. You don't need to learn anything. You don't need to accomplish anything. You don't need to add anything unto yourself. You just need to recognize the things holding you back.
I love
I
that.
find that so unbelievably like liberating and freeing. Nobody's missing anything. There's nothing missing.
It's kind of like the old, like when you're dating someone and they say, it's not you, it's me, right? It's kind of the opposite of that, right? It's not in you. It's not something in you that's lacking. Maybe that's the right way to say it, right?
There's nothing lacking other than maybe the thoughts or beliefs that there is.
Yeah. And you can change those. You can
You can
make
change,
those, you can change anything, right?
change anything.
You can change anything. I love that. Is there a lesson or something you wish you would have known that you could have told your 28-year-old self when you were going through all of this?
Oh, you're a jerk. Oh, yeah. So as soon as you say that, I start to tear up. So this is it. You're okay.
Yeah.
You're safe. And you're enough.
I love that. I love how you're getting emotional about it now. So am I, because it's true, right? And you can do it. Anything is possible. You can do it. If you are in the spot, Luke, where can people find you? Because I can tell you right now, people are listening and thinking, I need Luke's help. So where can they find you? Where can they get more information? We have just touched the surface. We've been talking for about 45 minutes, but I know people are going to want to reach out to you. So where is the best place for people to find you?
The best place is actually Facebook.
Okay.
It's absolutely the best place. It's the platform I'm most active on. I run a free community there. It's literally called the Unstuck group. More so for entrepreneurs, but really anybody feeling stuck that wants to. So that stuckness is the feeling of survival, and it can present in a number of ways. I referenced them earlier. I won't do it again. But the idea is to get unstuck and thrive. Because
Yes, not just survive, but thrive.
When we feel good, when we're thriving, kind of everything's just easy and flows and is effortless, and that's a beautiful place to be. So that's the easiest way.
Awesome. Thank you. I love how you're living your life. I love that you're doing your music. You moved. You did all of the things that you're like, this scares the shit out of me, and I'm doing it. And I hope that some people listening today just take that step and know, look at Luke, right? He is living a fantastic life. So just know that taking that step is going to get you to many great things. And Luke, I really appreciate you having on. You've been a great guest. You're going to get a million messages after this. I could just tell. But I appreciate it so much. Thank you. And thank you for listening today. Reach out to Luke's group. Join his group if you have any questions. And thank you for listening. Everybody, we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening to Winning. Be sure to subscribe to get all of our new episodes. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others. Post about it on social media and leave a rating and review wherever you listen to Winning. To catch all of the latest from us, you can follow Winning Podcast on Instagram at winning_podcast, Facebook at Winning Podcast, and on Twitter at Winning Pod. Winning was created and is produced by me, Mackenzie Kilshaw. Music created by Summer Furby. Editing by Seth Armstrong. Special thanks to Shauna Foster for voicing our opening. And of course, a huge thank you to this episode's guest. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.